Good morning, second and sixth period. This is Mrs. Small, and in anticipation of my absence tomorrow, I decided to make this recording so that you all could get a little bit of the notes that I intended to deliver to you in person from this recording. Okay, so today what I wanted to cover with you is the branches of government in the Islamic Republic of Iran. Each of you should have a handout with this visual on it, and on the back of that handout, if you flip the page over, you will find a New York Times article that describes many of the powers of the various institutions of government. So before proceeding, what I'd like you to do is pause this video, turn over onto the back, read about the various branches of government, and as you read, please put the information that you learn about the various powers of these organizations into your notes, either on the front page or on your own paper. Okay, so please go ahead and pause this video now and do that. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you just learned and what I need you to know about the Islamic Republic of Iran branches of government. First, the Islamic Republic of Iran was created in 1979 after the revolution. And the Constitution sought to create a government that was both a theocracy and combined elements of democracy. Okay, so a theocracy is a system of government in which religious rule provides the basis of authority, and so in this case it is the Quran. However, the Iranian constitution does in fact have some very, very democratic features, which makes this system quite interesting. So let's start with those democratic features. Right here, now by the way, this visual is straight from your AP Comparative Government and Politics textbook, and I thought it was a very useful visual organizer, graphic organizer for the branches of government. First, starting from the bottom, you will find the electorate. Okay, this represents the citizens of Iran, and it indicates the offices that they are eligible to vote for. So notice there are three arrows here. 1, 2, and 3. These three arrows indicate the offices that citizens are able to vote for in elections that are somewhat competitive. Let's talk first about the Assembly of Religious Experts. This was mentioned in the New York Times article. If you want, you may pause and talk to your neighbor about what the Assembly of Religious Experts does according to the New York Times. But in the context of AP Comparative Government and Politics, what you need to know is that the Assembly of Religious Experts is a small body of clerics whose main responsibility is to work in conjunction with the supreme leader and oversee the religious authority of the state. Theoretically, according to the Constitution, the Assembly of Religious Experts has the power to check the supreme leader, advise the supreme leader, and even remove the supreme leader in the case of an abuse of power. In the event of a vacancy, the Assembly of Religious Experts also selects the supreme leader. So you can see that there's a nice line here showing that these two organizations work together. Okay, since I worked my way up here, let's go ahead and talk about the supreme leader. There have been two supreme leaders in Iranian history, the Ayatollah Khomeini, who founded the Islamic State, and the current Ayatollah Khamenei, who is the current supreme leader. The supreme leader does serve for life, and like the title suggests, has authority over many areas of the Islamic government. In fact, the supreme leader is commander-in-chief of the armed services, has veto power over legislation, is the head of state, and is primarily responsible for overseeing the religious sectors. Now notice there is a line to the judiciary from the supreme leader. And the judiciary in Iran does have a unique function, and that is not only to oversee the Sharia legal system of the courts, but it also regulates the press in Iran. So in Iran, a citizen is allowed to be critical of secular government leaders, but is not allowed to criticize the religious aspects of the government. So the judiciary decides whether or not independent media outlets are allowed to continue to operate in the state. So in fact, it is not uncommon for the judiciary to shut down media outlets that it views as too critical of the religious organization. Okay, I'm going to move my way over now to this box here. This is a very, very important branch of government in Iran, and you don't find this branch of government in any other country. It's called the Guardian Council. The Guardian Council's main responsibility in Islamic politics is to vet all candidates for office. And what that means is the Guardian Council has the power to decide who is eligible to run for office and who is ineligible. So every single election for all of these 3 offices that get elected, the Guardian Council does in fact vet those candidates. And according to the Constitution, the candidates are vetted on the basis of whether or not they are religiously observant according to the laws of Islam. Of course, it's widely believed, not surprisingly, that actually the Guardian Council just disqualifies whoever they don't like. However, the Constitution does state that those who are religiously observant are allowed to run, and those who are not allowed to run, and it's the Guardian Council that makes that decision. Okay? This organization actually plays a very large role in Iranian politics, as you will see in the exercise you'll complete in the second half of class. Okay, the Guardian Council, in addition to vetting candidates for office, also serves as an upper house of government. Okay, so any legislation that passes the Majlis, which is their legislative branch, must also pass the Guardian Council. So here we have essentially, a 2-house legislature. Moving on, the Islamic Majlis is their legislature. The Islamic Majlis is a 290 member organization, and it is considered to be the secular part of the government, along with the president. And the Majlis is not a rubber stamp organization. They have legitimate and serious public policy debates. The outcome of legislation is oftentimes uncertain, and the Majlis does have some political power, but it is technically a secular organization according to the Constitution. Okay, so moving on to the president. The president is also the head of secular affairs. The president is directly elected by the population. However, one of the things I want to emphasize about the office of the president is that the president doesn't have much power in Iranian politics. This might strike you as surprising because if you recall, Ahmadinejad, who was a very famous, or infamous, I should say, leader, got lots of media attention on the world stage and frequently made inflammatory statements that the Holocaust didn't happen and, other things that were very offensive to the West. He often garnered much media attention, but one of the things I always reminded students of when he was in power is that actually, according to the Constitution, the president of Iran is really a mere figurehead because the supreme leader has all of the real power. The president is pretty much just a leader of the secular population, can propose legislation, can talk to the Majlis, but doesn't even have a veto power. So notice there's no line here between the president and the Majlis, just from the electorate to the president, and that's because the president really is just more of a symbolic leader than a leader with a lot of power. The president does select the cabinet that comes from the Majlis, and this is sort of a remnant, I guess, of the Iranian parliamentary rule, which they had under the Shah. And so the cabinet comes from the Majlis, much like you would find in a parliamentary system of government, and the president does select those people. Okay, and then finally there's only one organization I did not discuss, and that's this Expediency Council. I find the Expediency Council to be an interesting organization, and this was discussed on the New York Times article that you read. The Expediency Council's main job is to resolve differences between the secular organization, the secular part of government, like the president and the Majlis, and the religious organizations of the government, and that would be the Guardian Council and the Assembly of Religious Experts. I think of the I think of the Expediency Council as the equivalent of an American conference committee. Essentially, they iron out differences on legislation. For example, if legislation that passes the secular Majlis is rejected in the Guardian Council for religious reasons, that bill would be sent to the Expediency Council to resolve the differences, put out a new, more compromised piece of legislation that would then go back to the Majlis for a vote. That should sound familiar to you. And that's the branches of government of Iran in a nutshell. Thank you for listening.